Well, hello. I've got a video today of this mod called Classical World for the amazing game of Hegemony 3, a Clash of the Ancients. If you don't know the game, it's a very rare species. It's a real-time strategy, grand strategy game. So very few in that genre. And this is a mod that I've been working on for over 5 years and spent countless thousands of hours producing. I finally got to a stage version 9 where I think it's worthy of making a video of and showing it off. I'm fairly proud of the work, and it's essentially what I've always wanted out of a grand strategy game. Doesn't have turns, has dynamic combat, has a huge map, has hundreds of factions and hundreds of cities, all custom made and all individual. In fact, there's 444 cities in the latest version. So let's give you a little look. Lots of custom loading screens. I've reskinned literally hundreds of units and created hundreds and hundreds of individual cards for generals, logos for factions, and so on. So you can see the map here. It's enormous, right from the British Isles down to sub-Saharan Africa, across to Arabia, up through Caspian Sea to the edge of the Eurasian steppe, Black Sea, all of Western Europe, obviously the Italian peninsula, hidden there by so many factions underneath. And most factions have multiple cities. There's a few that are city-states, but the majority have somewhere between 2 and 5 cities each. So let's have a look. Everyone loves Rome. Let's start with them. They're not overpowered in this. I don't have an exact time frame, but it kind of starts prior or sort of the end of the Greco-Persian Wars. There's custom events that show lots of historical events, including the Punic Wars, Greco-Persian Wars, right through till the Anglo-Saxon colonization or invasion of the British Isles. So it spans quite a vast space of time. Those who played the original game will recognize some parts of this. So this city of Rome was based on the one in the original, which you were able to cut and paste. It's got a very good map editor in the game, or mission editor, and it did allow me to cut and paste. Most of the cities can't be, but having done that, I've modified it greatly anyway. One of the cool things about the game is that cities have certain levels. So you can see this is level 3, starting at level 3, and as it goes up levels, you actually see development in the city. So you'll see more buildings will pop up, there'll be more temples, there'll be statues, there'll be markets, all sorts of extra things down. If you go down to the port of Ostia, you will see it's just one little jetty there, but you'll see much improved port structure as it grows. So Rome starts with 3 cities. You can start just with the city itself of Rome, or you can choose to start with all your sort of native faction group cities. So here we've got Ariminum and Bononia, and you can see around each city there's this sort of zone of control in their colour. So anything within that area, the units that you create are supplied. As soon as they go outside that area, they rely on the amount of food that they can carry, and of course the food is dependent on you getting food from resource hubs. So you can see around here there's various resource hubs. That's another thing I've modified. I've made a whole series of new resources available, but these are the ones that come in this game. So the wood, food from farming or from fisheries. This is a river ford where you can build a bridge. Anyway, so here's some of our troops coming out. Now the other thing I've done with this is there is an earlier game called Hegemony Rome, and I've been able to import a lot of the units from that game and then reskin some of them. So these are spearmen from well, it was actually the second game, Hegemony Rome. they've been reskinned. So they can capture resource hubs, but they can't produce any resources because you need workers to do that. So we'll get some workers spawning here and stick them in there. You'll see that every city has a population, and it goes down as the units are recruited. So you can see it's going down as they're being recruited into the workers category, and they will end up in that fishery, manning that. So one of the strategic aspects of the game is that enemy forces will try to capture your resource points, so they can enslave your workers, they can kill your workers, so protecting your resource hubs is quite an important feature of the game. You can actually build some improvements, so palisades, to give it a little extra support or protection from raiding, but they're still fairly vulnerable. So really the best way is to have troops nearby, certainly to the more important resources that you've got. You can see here lots of different units. So some of them you need certain technologies or certain buildings before you can produce them. So say the velites, you need the heavy infantry training. There's a main army, so that's a huge unit. I've produced that myself just to cut down on some of the micromanagement later in the game. So rather than having 4 or 5 units, you can just have one very large one. We've got the light swordsmen, javelineers, slingers, and more pages of Roman archers, Astarte. So they're actually, that's right, I made them available early on. So they would have been historically. They're quite cool units. Oh, this is one of the new graphics bits produced. The pumpkin patches around this small farm here. And while I'm capturing that, I might stick some workers in there. Anyway, you probably want to see the vastness of this map rather than me just fluffing around playing as Rome. So we've got the whole Italian peninsula, you've got all of France, or Gaul, Iberian Peninsula, lots of cities, lots of factions. North African coast, pretty well populated with cities, and then down the Nile also, lots of cities along the Red Sea, smattering through Arabia, and then up through the Fertile Crescent you've got lots, and then Anatolia, full of cities right across to the Caucasus Mountains, and then even up into the sort of edge of the Eurasian steppe and Sarmatia, or modern day Russia. There's a moderate number of cities there as well. Let me just get the fog of war off. Oops. There we go, and then we can see the whole thing. So let's have a look around the Italian peninsula first. So Capua, capital of Campania, Neapolis, some Greek city-states down here, Croton and Locri, Reggio, Heraclea, Tarentum, Barium, Brundisium. So lots of cities in Italy. Callipolis, another city-state, Greek colonized. Down into Greece itself, obviously Sparta, Athens being the two big ones, but also Corinth was a major force at that time, situated here on the Gulf of Corinth. Lots of other cities go up to Macedon now. They have a big power. So Pella and Vergina being their two main starting cities. And then across to Thrace. A few cities here. Byzantium, that's one of my favourites. So I've tried to make it sort of vaguely look like later Byzantium, but again it starts, as all the cities do, at a lower level of development, and as it comes up you get more and more elaborate buildings being produced within the city. You can build things yourself, but just graphically they don't necessarily appear. They appear as you level up. Cities appear as you, buildings appear as you level up. On the coast of the Black Sea, quite populated. Some little villages, but other decent sized cities. Coming right across, let's have a look. Oh, yeah, Babylon, that's one of my favourite cities. So the famous Ishtar gates, the blue gates there. Quite a big city right up from the beginning. Hanging gardens, possibly not historically accurate, but anyway, put them in. So that's a very large city. The other big Persian, that's occupied by the Persians at the beginning. That's the, here we go, Persepolis, the other. I don't remember which one I've left as the Persian capital in this version. One was Persepolis, one was Babylon. Anyway, oh no, that's right, I've made Babylon separate. That's actually Babylonia, so that's a new faction with just a few cities. Yeah, I think that's it. Nippur, Babylon. I don't think that's, I don't think that belongs to Babylon. At the beginning of the game, can't remember now. I think that's part of Palmyra actually. This city down here, Sippara. Anyhow, so many cities, hard to keep track of them all. Recent work I've done around the Red Sea. So I've expanded the Persian Empire a bit. I've only done some of their cities here. Given them some more ports. All these dark-skinned characters have been reskinned from the original, so there weren't any dark-skinned ones in the original game. There's a guy called Robcore who helped initially some years ago with getting into reskinning, and he's allowed me to use his amazing Spartan models. So they're all, most of them are from Robcore. Also learned how to import banners a while back, so I'm able to decorate some of these cool buildings. Actually, the capital of Egypt, Memphis. I'm quite happy with that city. That's pretty cool. Though it's only half built at the beginning of the game. As it levels up, it becomes much more impressive, as does Alexandria. So you've got the famous lighthouse, the lagoon behind. It's early stages of development there. It becomes much more impressive than that, as does Jerusalem. We've got the temple there, Jewish candle symbols. I try to put in some sort of characteristic symbology in lots of places to give a sense of history and of the unique cultures. So this is Petra. You might recognise that entrance to the temple at Petra. Seen in the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Oh no, it wasn't. It was in the Last Crusade. That's right, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. What else we got here? Antioch, a famous city. The Seleucid Empire. Emesa, this is a fairly recent one I put in. City-state. Sun worshippers. Some sort of amazing meteorite was their main kind of symbol that they worshipped there. So I've put that in. Alright, that's probably enough. Oh, Carthage, don't forget Carthage. That's one of the most epic cities I've built. So again, this is an early version, a pale imitation of how epic it becomes later in the game. But you've got the elephant houses, you've got the famous circular boat harbour. Lots of farmland around. Let's go have a look at. Cool. So Caesar's gonna appear here later in the game and do some damage. Obviously much more wooded forested areas. See some of the reskinned new shields and reskinned units. Some of them are from the earlier game, Hegemony Rome. So a huge number of cities, as you can see. It's amazed I had enough staying power to produce so many, really. It's just been a labour of love over many years, and keep tinkering away at it. Every time I play it, I find some bits that I'm not happy with, or something I can do better. Every time I read some history or watch some YouTube video about something amazing ancient history, I tend to want to go back and put it into the game. So that's how it's gradually grown to such a size. Go to the British Isles, packed in a lot of extra cities in here in the last year or so. Pretty much the most densely populated city-wise of any part of the map, I think. Possibly slightly more than Italy even. More greener, more wooded. So you can have some pretty good campaigns just within the British Isles if you don't want to be troubled by the huge expanse of Eurasia. Although you might get invaded by the Anglo-Saxons later on in the game, plus some Vikings are going to come your way, or Danes anyway. Speaking of which, let's have a look up here. So I was able to put some new textures for snow into the game as well. That wasn't in the original one, so we've got all the lots of parts of northern Europe are snow covered, as are the major mountain ranges such as the Alps. There's the Carpathians there, the Alps there, so you're snow covered with just a few passes. So here we've got Cisalpine Gaul. You can go through these narrow passes, which are obviously very strategic choke points, up into Europe, Central Europe. Same with the Carpathian Mountains and the capital of Dacia. Quite like this city. It's again also not at its most impressive early in the game. If you come back a few hours into the game, you'll see that's a pretty awesome city. What else to show? Nothing much there. Some of these walls I've sort of custom made with actually upside down trees. So it's the roots all sticking up to give it a more basic kind of rural palisade look. Here we go, we're catching some raiding in action. It looks like, or maybe they live there. Anyhow, that's a bit of a look around the map. Let's go back to Italy and I'll just see how we're going here. So we've got that one resource hub, which is not enough for anything. We've got that one. Let's put out a whole lot more workers and get ourselves sorted. Wood's important early in the game because you can't build things without wood. AI can be a bit slow at colonising or at claiming local resources, which is a small weakness. I've tried to improve that. I've tried to do a few improvements to the AI, and some of them have worked a bit. Some haven't seemed to make as much difference as I would have liked. Canute 7 is also, he's done some great work on the AI, and I've incorporated some of that in here. I hope that will also improve the challenge of the game. It's quite difficult early on. It tends to be once you get a civilization or an empire of 10 or more cities that you sort of get that steamroller effect. It's hard for the AI to combat you, but we're hoping these new changes to the way the AI function might make it a bit harder in the later game. Plus all the invasion events often add a bit of extra challenge. Anyway, just in terms of background of this mod and how I got to be making it, been fascinated in ancient history and loved lots of games of the sort of era, generally the grand strategy games such as the Total Wars and Imperator Rome, Field of Glories, Empires, all these games, but none of them quite grabbed me as much as I would have liked. That often the slow turn times really put me off. The fact you can't visually see what your armies are doing or how your cities are developing in some of those games also wasn't all that satisfying. So when I stumbled across Hegemony 3, which is centered in the Italian peninsula, it's also got Sicily and sort of up here Cisalpine Gaul, much more magnified than this is. Yeah, I thought that was an amazing game and a lot of fun to play, and then realised it actually had the potential to be the game that I've always wanted. So I've worked on that for 5 years or so, and I've got it pretty much there now. I've had a little bit of help from a few excellent modders. I mentioned Rob Core with his reskinning. Fristy61's the one who's given me the most help. He knows the game inside out, much more knowledgeable about all the coding and finer details of computing in general than I am. So he's been brilliant for that. Kanuta, as I said recently, has come on board and produced a lot of interesting mods, and actually also helped me upload the latest version, number 9, which I changed the system on Steam, and I wasn't clear how to do that. So yeah, such a massive mod. It's never the creation of just one person, although I would say I've done the vast majority of the put in the vast majority of the hours on this one. So what else to tell you? I think that is the majority of it, really. It's a lot of fun to play. It's been a lot of fun to build. I think I'll keep working on it, tinkering with it. I've done the vast majority to save what I want to do. There was hope that there would be a new DLC that would introduce more siege weapons. The company Longbow, who produced this, have sort of gone missing for about a year now. So I think most of us in the community have lost hope that they will put out that DLC, but if they ever do, I'll certainly incorporate as many of the new units that they're going to work to produce into this game, and any other graphical assets I'll try to put them into the mod. I think that's about it, really. So if you haven't heard of Hegemony 3, have a look. There's lots of YouTube videos about the base game, yeah, I would highly recommend it. I think that in itself is a great game. There's one DLC called the Eagle King. You do need that, and also the Hegemony Rome and its DLCs, because I've used assets from both those games and all those DLCs in this, so that requires those graphical sort of files to work. So there you go. I think I might wrap it up there. I'll just show you one more thing, because I love Carthage. It's my favourite faction, I reckon. I'm going to play as them this time. I'll give you a quick look at some of the Carthaginian units, but again, I mean, you need to have developed the cities and got barracks and stables and archery centres and so on to be able to produce the best units. But anyway, we start with elephants, so that's pretty cool. All the Carthaginian generals are elephant mounted. Reskinned those. Yeah, some of those guys riding the elephants have darker skin. These are the Sacred Band. They're pretty cool. Got some new shields on those guys. New in the last couple of mods anyway, a couple of versions of the mod. And Carthage, as it was historically, is quite expanded, so they've got Malta, they've got a few cities in North Africa, they've got a foothold in Sicily, in Sardinia, and Nova Carthago in Iberia, so they're set to expand and dominate. So there you go, that is my mod for Hegemony 3 called Classical World. And I hope you like it and give it a shot. All the best. See you later.